Peace. Greetings to you all. It's your brother Naheem, BKA Lord Abbott, aka Mr. Just the Facts. Family, you know, it's been a while since we've been on air. Make sure y'all share the video out. I guess if I'm gonna be a YouTuber, I gotta be on YouTube. I gotta be on YouTube more, being that I'm nothing more than a YouTuber, right? So yeah, that's, you know, direct shot for those that know. But what's going on, man? Shout out to the fam that's in the building. BTP Riri is on deck. Sister Cindy is on deck. Sister Antonia. We got the sisters representing heavy tonight. Cash 504 was good. New Orleans is in the building. BTP Shanna is on deck. I'm coming to get my bike back. What's going on, man? Long time no hear from. Vince Jefferson plugged in as usual. Wow, Sister Kelly Pryor got time today. You know. So I don't know. Some of my destinations is not streaming. Why is it not streaming on Facebook? We're having trouble streaming to Facebook. This may be an issue on Facebook's end. I don't know what's going on, but it is what it is, man. We gonna keep going. Share the video out. Make sure y'all hit like. We're gonna deconstruct Larry Elder. Y'all let me know if the music in the background is too loud. I'll turn it off. I turned it down really low, but I like the music theme. You already know. So y'all let me know if that music is too loud, if y'all can hear me good. I'm not on my microphone, so my whole setup is off right now. But just let me know if I'm coming through well enough for you all to hear. Because we're gonna dig into this interview that Larry Elder gave on the Breakfast Club, right? And I'm not gonna play the whole thing. I'm gonna just play the first few minutes of it. I don't know if we'll get a copyright strike because of it. I'm not sure, but we're gonna play it regardless. That interview garnered a lot of feedback, right? Because they're waiting for conservatives or Republicans, whatever, to come on the Breakfast Club and if they're gonna have some black conservatives, they need to holler at people like my sister Sunny, man, like, you know, people that ain't selling out. Get all of these sellouts. Bring them people on, right? So, okay, I'm getting some thumbs up. I guess that's good. I guess that's a good sign that the sound quality is good. So we're gonna go to this Breakfast Club interview. I don't know. Let me cut the music off. Okay, you know, and let me say, right? Peace. What's going on, Brother Dre? These conservatives have been coming on the Breakfast Club. These bigots. Right? Larry Elder, he's a sellout. So he's the worst type because he appears to be a freedman. I seen something that said he may have been of Costa Rican descent. I didn't see that. I think what I seen that he was born in South Carolina or something like that. So if I'm wrong, y'all could correct me. But I didn't see anywhere that it said that he or his family was from Costa Rica. So if y'all can find anything that validates that, definitely put it in the chat, because we know that the only people that speak like this about us receiving remedial justice is the black immigrants and racist white folk. Right? We know that for a fact. So why does this keep popping up? Let me just delete this on Facebook. There was a post was created on Facebook. Delete the post. Yes. I don't know what's going on with this thing. But anyway, so we got Vivek Ramaswamy and everybody did these videos and they was going at Sister Teslin, yada, yada, yada. And then we got the same thing going on with Larry Elder. And I will say that in the exchange with Larry Elder and Charlemagne, he completely outmaneuvered Charlemagne in this debate. And it's easy for us to play armchair, right, quarterback, if you will, because we know this stuff and we know how to answer this stuff in real time. Uh, my brother Truth to Power said, yeah, they trying to say Larry Cook, Charlemagne the God. What's going on, Truth to Power? Multi-generational mulatto. That's an interesting name. What's going on? So we can easily say that, um, you know, Elder cooked them and Charlemagne didn't know the responses. And I've been saying this for years, though. It's like you know who you're bringing on your platform. So you have to know how to dance with them. Y'all seen my debate with Randy Perham, the Black Republican. That was easy work. It was light work. People were saying I took it easy on him. I was like, really? I was like, okay. I mean, I was trying to be cordial, but I didn't think I took it easy on him. I thought I was cooking him. But some people said I took it easy on him, and that may happen sometimes. If you might you calm yourself down so much that because you want the debate, you want to do the intelligent debate thing. And sometimes you got to get a little, brutish. It is what it is. Some of these people be on some BS. So let's play the video. Y'all let me know if y'all can hear it. Because like I said, my setup is a little bit off right now. As I'm in the, I'm doing some moving around, family. I'm doing some moving around. So let's play the video. Y'all let me know if y'all can hear it. Put a 1 in the chat.
JNV, Charlemagne the God. We are the Breakfast Club. We have Teslin Figueroa with us, and we got a special guest in the building. 2024 Republican presidential candidate Larry Elder. Welcome, brother.
Thank you so much for having me. It is an honor.
How you feeling?
I feel good.
Can y'all hear the audio?
He does more than that.
Put a 1 in the chat. Okay, perfect, perfect.
He's a radio host.
Radio host for 40 years.
Author, TV
author,
host.
New York Times best-selling list. Got a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Corner of Hollywood and Vine, Southeast corner, just saying.
Okay.
I didn't know you had a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame.
Yeah,
man.
yeah, about a handful of radio guys do, and I'm one of them.
Yeah, I think it's you, Elvis Duran,
Angie
Howard
Martinez.
Stern,
Yeah.
Big Boy. Oh, Angie Martinez.
And this an America First mega guy.
Elvis Duran,
Angie
Howard
Martinez.
Stern.
I don't want to hear all this stuff.
A guy named Arthur Godfrey.
I'll just let it play.
So let's jump right into it. Why are you running for president?
Well, I'm running as an America First mega guy, and we have an America First mega guy running, obviously. So the question is, what do you bring to the table?
You say MAGA.
MAGA.
Okay.
And the answer is, I bring a lot of issues to the table that I feel our side is not talking enough about, if at all. For example, the #1 social problem in America by far is the epidemic, not of COVID, but of fatherlessness.
Okay, so notice he said the #1 social epidemic in the country is not COVID, it's fatherlessness. We're gonna touch on that. We're gonna touch on that in a few.
70% of Black kids today enter the world without a father in the home, married to the mother, up from 25% back in 1965. Now 25% of white kids enter the world today without a father in the home, married to the mother. And the stats are clear. Even Barack Obama once cited them. If you're raised without a dad, you're 5 times more likely to be poor and commit crime, 9 times more likely to drop out of school, and 20 times more likely to end up in jail. What's happened? In the mid-60s, with I think the best of intentions, a Democrat named Lyndon Johnson launched what he called the War on Poverty. And since then, we have incentivized women to marry the government and incentivized men to abandon their financial and moral responsibility. When I say this to people, the pushback I get is, well, there are lots of things that are going on, systemic racism, poverty. Here's the problem. If you look at a young Black male aged 10 to 43, that's young to me because I'm 71 years old. A young Black man in that demo is 13 times more likely to be murdered than a young white man, same demo. Young Black man, real young, 19 and under, the #1 cause of preventable death is homicide, almost always at the hands of another young Black male. Same demo for whites, the #1 cause of preventable death is unintentional deaths. That includes drug overdoses, automobile accidents, drownings. It's not until they get to #4 that death is the cause. In America, 60% of the shootings, the robberies, and the homicides are committed by Black people, often against other Black people. Of the homicides in this country, half of them are Black victims, almost all killed by other Blacks. How do you explain that if it isn't for the absence of fathers? Are you prepared to say Black people are just genetically inclined to commit more crime? I doubt it. And the go-to reaction often is poverty and systemic racism. Here's the problem. 1940, when there was blatant racism, this is before Brown versus Board of Education, before the Civil Rights Act of 64, KKK was still alive and well, 87% of Blacks lived under the poverty line. Now it's about 14%. You can't blame it on poverty. You can't blame it on racism. It is the breakdown of the nuclear intact family, and neither side is talking about it. The left doesn't talk about it because they caused it with the welfare state, and our side does not talk about it because if you're white, you'll be accused of dissing single moms who are heroically raising these kids, or you'll be accused of being a racist, or if you're Black, you'll be accused, as I was by the LA Times, of being the black face of white supremacy. Nobody's talking about that. I am.
What are the reasons, if your statistics are right, what are the reasons that you think fathers aren't in the home?
As I said, it's because in the mid-60s, Lyndon Johnson launched what he called the War on Poverty. In Charlemagne, literally, they sent social workers door to door in the inner city. I remember this, advising women of the availability of welfare provided there was no man in the house. It created an economic incentive for women to marry the government. Same thing with whites. In 1965, 8% of whites entered the world without a father in the home, married to the mother. Now it's about 25%, also up threefold. Look at census data, 1910, 1920, 1930, in places like Milwaukee, Chicago, Philadelphia, a young Black kid was slightly more likely to be brought into a world with a father in the home, married to the mother, than a young white kid. We have incentivized this kind of bad behavior, and it's had a disproportionately bad effect on the Black community.
Let me ask you a question. What do white people do wrong, Larry Elder?
What do you mean, what do white people do? I'm not worried about white people. I'm worried about what's going on with us.
But if there's systemic racism in this country, which we know it is.
No, I don't say there is. You say there is. I don't believe that.
Oh, you don't believe there's
No, there
systemic
used to
racism?
be, obviously. Tell me what you think the number one systemic example of systemic racism is in America.
Oh man, there's so many.
Just give me the most important one you think.
At the top of mind, I'll probably maybe say mass incarceration. Maybe.
Really? During the Great Depression, when 50% of Black adults were unemployed, you didn't have this kind of mass incarceration. It's the breakdown of the family. There's a direct.
I'm not going to. I agree with the family part. I'm a Black man who is a father to his children, and I'm a happily married Black man to a Black woman. So I'm never going to argue with that part, But I just feel like everything is black with you. Black is wrong. Black people do this and Black people do that. And when I asked you what white people do wrong, you said you're not worried about white people at all.
I'm talking about the damage, disproportionate damage going on in the Black community. For example, look at these smash and grabs that are taking place in Los Angeles, where I live. There's a suburb called Glendale, where at a mall recently, a mob of 30 to 40 people, they had masks on, but one guy got popped. He was a Black. I think most of those who were doing this were Black. And in recent years and times, there have been a number of these in places like Chicago, places like New York. If I were involved in something like that, Charlemagne, I grew up with a dad, just as you're raising your own children. I would have been more afraid of my father than I would about the cops catching me. These kids are afraid of neither. They don't have a father in the home. Cops are demoralized. They're pulling back. Their manpower is short. And as a result, you tell a bad guy you're less likely to be caught, convicted, incarcerated, crime goes up. They may be criminals, but they're not stupid. When you
All right, we can stop there. This is just a whole bunch of garbage. Man. Like, sheesh. Every time I had to listen to this crap, man, you get so tired of hearing this nonsense that you don't want to hear it anymore. But we're doing a live stream tonight, and the purpose is to debunk this idiocy that this graham cracker is talking about. So let's close this out. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna get into the the PowerPoint that I have. Shout out to everybody who just joined us. So let me share this PowerPoint. We're gonna touch on some of these things that he talked about. I didn't want to do a deep dive because on Instagram there were some people that didn't like my comment, that I said, come to my platform and see what getting ate up looks like, right? So let's do this. Let's get into this thing right here. Y'all make sure y'all share this video out. Let me see. Oops. I'm gonna be on here that long. We are not gonna be on here that long. Slideshow from the beginning. Boom. Let's go. All right. So you see the header, Larry Elder and his white lies, deconstructing a sellout. This guy is the epitome of what it is to be a sellout and a C00N. I know YouTube is monitoring certain words, so I got to be easy, I guess. So let's go to the definition of fatherless first, because he said fatherlessness is the #1 social issue in the country. It's not true. I pulled up Pew Research and I pulled up I think it was a Bloomberg article, I might share those later, that showed in the US 10 issues that are dear to Americans' heart in this country. And fatherlessness wasn't one of them, and Black fatherlessness wasn't one of them. Then I went to a Pew Research poll that spoke to strictly, quote unquote, Black issues to see if fatherlessness would be in its top 10, and it wasn't. So Larry Elder lied because he's a liar, and that's just what liars do. So let's go through the definition of fatherless. This is from dictionary.com. Adjective: not having a living father, a fatherless boy. That's #1. #2, not having a known or legally responsible father. We're going to pause there. We're going to pause there because what I want to do is I want to get into these statistics. And we're going to come back to that fatherless thing, because y'all heard me touch on this before. And again, for us, this stuff is like riding a bike, but it might not be for everybody else. So it is our hopes that those that come on this channel will know how to handle the Larry Elders. See, over here, we deconstruct right-wing BS and we deconstruct left-wing BS, because we are neither Democrat nor Republican. So they can't pin none of that stuff on us. We just detest liars who are against our population group, who has a specific ancestry that could be traced back to emancipated persons in this country. So this was the 20. I was trying to find a more up-to-date version of the FBI crime stats, but I couldn't. So I went to the 2019. These Republican talking points are very old. And this is the homicide data, right? And I don't know if y'all are going to be able to see this. I should have highlighted it. Matter of fact, I know what I'll do. I did. Hold on. I did highlight it. Just the homicide data. Let's analyze this real quick, right? So we see race of victim to the left: white, Black, or African American; other race, unknown race; and race of offender to the right. So we see white folks as offenders. This is homicides. 2,594 homicides against other white folks. White folks in this same year killed 566 Black or African Americans. I'm using the terms of the statistics of this data set. That's a high number. White folks killed 566 Black or African Americans. Now let's not reverse it, but let's look at the Black or African American category. Black people, Black or African Americans, killed 2,574 African Americans. So 2,594 white people were murdered by other white people. 2,574 Black people were murdered by other Black people. Now, if you add in per capita, of course, it looks a little crazy, right? But the fact of the matter is, more white people got murdered than Black people in that year. Simple as that. But Black people, and I don't want to use the word only, because it's a bad phrase, but I'm gonna use it in this case, only killed 246 white people. There's a disparity there. Why wouldn't Larry Elder speak about that? Why not talk about how many black people are being murdered by white people in this country? You don't want to talk about that. You just want to talk about black stuff. Charlemagne asked him, why is it always black, black, black? But when it comes to white people, you have nothing to say. Well, we have some things that we can talk about. Black people, as we've shown on this platform, lead the statistic every year in hate crimes against by other races. And who's the number one perpetrator? White folks. White folks. Just saying. Just saying. Okay, so here is a total arrest based on violent crimes. Again, this is 2019. You can see this is the Department of Justice, FBI website. Let's go. Let's go. Let's look at it. So offense charge, right? So we see the total 6,816,000, yada, yada, yada. We see white people, total arrest, 4,729,290 arrests. Black or African American, only 1,815,144 arrests. So where's this narrative coming from that we are basically committing the most crimes in this country with 4 million white people? 4 million, that's 3 million more than us have been arrested. This was the 2019 statistic. Let's look at the violent crimes. White people commit 209,848 violent crimes, compared to only 129,346 violent crimes. What is Larry Elder speaking about? Let's look at stolen property. Buying, receiving, possessing, because he talked about the smash and grabs. That was like, they like to point to anomalies and focus on an anomaly to represent the whole. And so when we're looking at it, we can see that white people clearly steal more than black people. But Larry Elder doesn't want to speak about the white folks who are doing the crimes in this country. He, like the bigot Vivek Ramaswamy, and most people in the Republican Party, they have this tactic where it is attack black men. You see it from the Republican Party, you see it from the Democratic Party. The Democrats' tactic is we're going to boost up black women and we're going to manipulate black women so that they could help them shame black men to get in line to vote for the Democratic Party. The Republican tactic is we're just going to outright shame black men. We're going to not look at any real statistics. That statistic that Larry Elder cited, that Barack Obama cited, it's a BS statistic. It's a BS statistic that has already been debunked by one of the sources that I'm going to pull up in a few minutes. So arrests by race and ethnicity 2019. We're going to scroll down to the highlighted parts. White individuals were arrested more often for violent crimes than individuals of any other race and accounted for 59.1% of those arrests. What is Larry Elder talking about? See, Charlemagne and them, they should have had this stuff on deck. You know what this guy is coming with. We know what these people are going to come with. That's what makes it easy. When I debated Randy Perham, I knew exactly what he was coming with. So I had my PowerPoint ready to debunk all of his talking points. He had no PowerPoint. They just rambled off false statistics like black people are only 14% of the population, but commit 50% of the crimes, which means that every black person in America, as they call us black people, are criminals. Every last one of us, from our little infant babies to our great grandmothers and great grandfathers, they're all criminals. Because this is what that false statistic that they spew is implying. Safe Brother said, be the power you just gained a new subscriber. Honest, fam, honest. Okay, let me see. Because I'm looking at it from my phone because the PowerPoint is taking up my screen. Let me see. I can't really. Patrick Tyler said in Cali, they've been catching Latinos doing those snatch and grab. Of course. Okay, so it says of adults arrested for murder, 51.3% were Black or African American, 45.7% were white, and 3% were of other races. Okay, so you say Black people commit more murders, right? Per capita. Well, that just says they were arrested. How many white people are on the run? We don't know. Black people don't have the means, as we're called freedmen. Let me use the term here. Freedmen don't have the means to just be on the run and hide forever. Whereas white folks, they come from money. They be getting away with a lot of stuff. And 45.7 is not too far off from 51.3. Like let's take some things into consideration as we're looking at this. White juveniles, right? They're always talking about the fatherless Black youth and the youth of Black people. And we got to get to these young men and young women and teach them how to pull up their pants and all of this other garbage nonsense that Barack Obama, the tan-skinned white man, used to say, which the tan-skinned white man, Larry Elder, because that's what he's acting like, is repeating, and that the white right repeats all the time. But according to the FBI, Department of Justice statistics, it says white juveniles comprise 50.3% of all juvenile arrests for violent crimes, and Black or African American juveniles accounted for 46.4% of juveniles arrested for violent crimes. Poverty is our issue. What's the issue with white folks? They got all the money in this country. Damn near. See, when you start to corner people like Larry Elder like that, you'll make them trip over their own tongue. See, we bottle these people up in real time. We know how to shoot this stuff at them in real time. It says, let me see. It says white juveniles comprise 54.9% of all juveniles arrested for property crimes. You're talking about smash and grabs with Black people. You don't want to focus on the white folks that's doing the crime. You only want to focus on the Black folks. That's crazy to me. It shows me that you are a sellout and that you will sell your own people out. If he's a freedman, you will sell your own people out. And to focus on us to get white approval, white money, and in this instance, white votes. It's a sellout. That's what we're looking at. Our brother Ali said, and they don't get arrested as much. And when they do, they beat cases more. It's a fact. It's just a fact. It says of juveniles arrested for drug abuse, 74.8% were white. They didn't even put a Black statistic up here. 74.8% were white. White juveniles comprised 56.4% of juveniles arrested for aggravated assault and 55.4% of juveniles arrested for larceny theft. Again, we talk about smash and grabs. We're talking about violent crimes. White people commit the most violent crimes in this country. This is according to the statistics. See, we turn that stuff around. And I put this here because I wanted to show what Obama said, because this came from another slideshow that we did, another PowerPoint where we were deconstructing this horrible, horrible president, Barack Obama. It's absolutely horrible for us. We have no friends in politics. Until we sit in those seats, we have no friends in politics, not at the federal level, but that's what we're working on right now. We just shaking the tree right now, getting all the haters and the snakes and scorpions up out the way. We tree shaking. They revealing themselves, to be honest with you. We ain't really shaking the tree. We just leaning up against the tree, and they're falling out on their own. Yep, that's a direct shot. Go check my Twitter wall and my Twitter space. Y'all will know exactly who I'm talking about. Okay, so this is from a paper that I've cited before on this platform. The truth about Black fatherhood, stereotypes about Black fathers, because again, this is an attack on Black men. They talk, you hear this thing all the time, protect black women, protect black women. No, protect black men. We are the most assaulted, right? Because we have our own issues in our neighborhoods. So we assault each other. We're assaulted by other races like white folks. I showed the statistics. We are the largest hate crimes against. Every election cycle, we are under psychological assault by right wingers, as we see with Larry Elder. We are under psychological assault by left wingers. You're going to start seeing the newspaper articles coming out soon talking about black men. You know, if black men don't go vote, they should be ashamed of themselves. What did Maxine Waters say? I will never forgive black men if they vote for Trump. You're not a saint. You're not the Pope or Popestress or whatever the hell a female Pope would be called. Who the hell are you to say who you're going to forgive and who you're not going to forgive? Iron Physique said conservatives purposely ignore the exoneration by race statistics. And we know why. Blacks are 13% of the total population, but are 45% of those who are exonerated. That's a fact. That's a fact. That is a fact. Why? False arrests. So even the arrest statistics that I cited can be skewed by the fact that those may be a lot of false arrests. I forgot to add that. Thank you, brother Iron Physique. Thank you for that. So, hold on. I think somebody's in the back. Ibrahim. Okay, hold on. Add to stream. Boom. All right, cool. Perfect. We got brother Ibrahim on. So I'm gonna run through this, Ibrahim, and then you go in, bro, because I gotta mute out for a few minutes. So the truth about black fatherhood. Let's get into this because we know there are lies that are being spread by the right consistently. And this paper, along with, well, if I'm not mistaken, this may have come from the CDC. I believe the CDC published this report. I'll pull the source up in a minute. Just give me a few. Okay, let's get into this thing. The truth, black fathers are more involved. We cannot equate the number of unmarried dads to the number of quote unquote fatherless children. First of all, marriage rates don't necessarily reflect the number of black fathers living with their children, as writer Josh Leves points out. The majority of black dads, 2.5 million of around 4.2 million, do live with their kids, even if they're not married to their partner. See, these are the things that we would throw back in Larry Elder's face. Make him trip over his own tongue. Make him look stupid. See, we cook him over here. We cook him. But again, we could Monday morning quarterback, but we know these statistics. But what we're saying is, when you're going to have people like that on, those of us that's looking at it is going to say, y'all did a horrible job at holding this dude accountable. Charlemagne, and he asked him about systemic racism. And Charlemagne stumbled. I would say mass incarceration. I mean, you can't pick something more tangible that you could break down. What caused the mass incarceration? It's the systemic racism, the baked in racism in these institutions that cause the mass incarceration. You pick one of those. And I'm going to do that in a few minutes. But let's get back into this. And second of all, according to a 2013 report by the CDC, black dads, whether they live with their children or not, are more actively involved in their children's lives than their counterparts of other races. Kill this nonsense, fam. We got to kill this nonsense that somehow black men are evil and that we're bad dads. This is why this movement is so important. This is why we at Be the Power, United Sons and Daughters of Freedmen, I feel, and I'm going to say are so important because people need to see upright, strong, independent, fearless men talking about these issues, and let it be known that we will battle the devils on the left and we will battle the devils on the right. None of this shit is going to fly anymore. None of it. Let me continue. For example, the CDC reports that Black fathers who live with their children are more likely than fathers of other races to provide physical care, bathe, diaper, feed for their young children, read to their children, and help their children with their homework, all on a daily basis, than fathers of other races who also cohabitate with their kids. The report also reveals that among dads who don't live with their children, Black dads are more likely to be involved in care, including reading to their children, helping them with their homework, talking to them about their days, and taking them to activities than Hispanic or white dads who live apart from their kids. Non-residential Black fathers are also the least likely to report that they are not at all involved in the care of their children, including bathing, dressing, changing diapers, and playing with their children. This is a study, family. Like, we got to turn these false narratives on its head. So what did the mothers say? Mothers' reports echo fathers. Lest we believe that these statistics are skewed by the father's own self-reporting, other studies based on maternal reports echo these findings. In a 2008 survey of low-income mothers, researchers found that non-resident white fathers were less involved with their children than African-American and Latino fathers. In a 2018 study of non-marital births, mothers reported that Black fathers, quote, shared responsibilities more frequently and displayed more effective co-parenting than Hispanic and white fathers. To all my men in the chat, all you fathers, pat yourself on the back. That sound you hear, that's me patting myself on the back, because I fit into every last one of these categories, every last one of them. Every last one. I'm about to go pick my son up from work, my youngest son. He's 18 years old. I'm about to go pick him up from work in a few minutes. Like, I'm just saying. Like, so everything that this report is speaking about, like, we live it, but we're letting other people paint a narrative about us. That's why the political work that we're doing is so vital. And we got to crush everybody that get in our way, because there's some people that don't want the strong image of what it is to be a freedman man, to be out front. They want to promote misandry and all other types of agendas, and they want that to be centripetal to what this is supposed to be in our fight for reparations. But we ain't going nowhere. It says, and it seems that the parental relationship, the strong focus of Monahan's 1965 report, actually has less of an impact on Black fathers' involvement with their kids than it does on the involvement of other fathers. In a 2009 paper about the child-rearing roles of unmarried men, authors note that father involvement also varies by race and ethnicity, with rates for African American being higher than the average American father. Father involvement drops sharply after parents' relationships end, especially when they enter subsequent relationships and have children with new partners. These declines are less dramatic for African American fathers. So even when there's a breakup and there's a divorce, and that involvement lessens because they're in two separate places, they may have found new partners, each individual, freedmen fathers, aka Black or African American fathers, are still more involved in the lives of their children than white or Hispanics. Point blank, period. As journalist German Lopez writes, when it comes to Black fatherhood, quote, absence is not the norm. Active, involved parenthood is. Again, you freedmen men, you freedmen fathers in the chat, give yourselves a pat on the back, because they're lying about us. They're lying about us. And shout out to our sisters and our mothers. Y'all know we love y'all. And y'all are the ones that help boost us. Y'all are the ones that help with this part of the report. But right now, I got to focus on the men, because we are the ones who are mainly being attacked by people like Larry Elder. Black men's journey to fatherhood. Man, because I want Ibrahim to go in. So let me see. I'll read, and then I'm gonna let Ibrahim just go in. Black men's journey to fatherhood. We know that fatherhood is an important goal for the majority of Black men. In a survey of over 13,000 Black men ages 18 to 29, 83% said that having children is somewhat or very important to them. Anybody that knows me growing up will tell you, yo, Nah used to always say he wanted 10 children. I used to say it all the time. I wanted 10 children. So I still be talking about wanting a baby. My bros be telling me, if you don't sit your ass down somewhere, but it's true. I still be talking about it. I love being a father. I don't know any quote unquote Black men that don't love being fathers. Not personally. I'm not going to say that they're not out there. They are, but not as much as whites or Hispanics. So why is the focus on us? Personally, every brother that I personally know is involved in their children's lives in some way, shape, form, or fashion. They are involved. It says Black men are significantly more or less likely to have children than other races. Census reports show that 75% of white men, 80% of Black men, 81% of Asian men, and 83% of Hispanic men ages 40 through 49 have kids. On average, Black men have or expect to have 2.4 children. That number is 2.5 for Hispanic men, 2.1 for white men, and 2.0 for Asian men, according to a 2010 report. We can conclude that fatherhood is equally important to Black men as to men of other races. We are destroying these false narratives, fam, and we have to keep destroying them. We have to keep destroying them. Peace to the Freeman family that's in the building that I wasn't able to see. Brother Shannon, I see you. What's going on, man? And everybody else that's joined. This is one on fertility, right? Because they try to make it seem like we are just these rabbits that we just constantly breed. And that's why they got to put Planned Parenthood in our neighborhoods. Nah, y'all just want to limit our population. That's why 13 million freedmen / Black / African American, whichever term you want to use, right? Black or African American children have been aborted since 1973. 13 million. 13 million. That has reduced our population growth. One report said by, I think, a 50% halt in population growth. I got to go back and look at that. I may have been saying that wrong, but this just speaks about the fertility rate. Like Black men, because we don't have the same health care, have lower sperm vitality to produce babies. Our women suffer from uterine fibroids more than other women. But it's a testament to how absolutely strong that we are, because on the last statistic, it showed that we still keeping up with those people that don't have these problems. Again, shout out to my men. Shout out to my fathers out there. Shout out and to the soon-to-be fathers. Those of you who are planning on being fathers, I want to give you all a shout out, because we can't keep letting this narrative live and thrive. It can't. I'll go through this, and then I'm going to let my brother Ibrahim take it away. Larry Elder said he doesn't believe in systemic racism. He knows it's there. He's a liar. And that's what these COONs do. They lie because they're trying to get white approval, white money, and white votes. And Charlemagne, I would think he would be a little better versed as to not get trapped up in the moment, especially by the guests. Usually the host is the one doing the trapping up. You can't let the guests trip you up. That's the crazy part, right? And I'm not saying I'm a fan of Charlemagne or the Breakfast Club. I'm a fan of my sister Teslin Figaro. Shout out to my sister Tez. But I don't want nobody to think that what I'm doing here is because I rock with Charlemagne. No, I'm just calling out a liar in Larry Elder. That's what we're doing here. We're deconstructing his bullshit. So, systemic racism. I always go to economics because the wealth gap is the key indicator of what we call systemic racism. And what the courts called the badges and incidents of slavery, the stain of slavery, the Roman term macula servitutis. Well, we know about this Citigroup report that came out in 2020. Racism, and this is reported by CBS News, this was reported by, I think, NPR. I mean, this was reported by several news agencies. Racism has cost the U.S. $16 trillion Citigroup study fine. So if there's no racism, because the financial institution is one of the systems that oils and greases the moving parts of the engine that is capitalism in this country, the United States of America. One of the systems, one of the major systems. It is the main artery, matter of fact, because every other currency in the world is underneath the US dollar. So let's get into this. It says America could have been $16 trillion richer if not for inequities in education, housing, wages, and business investment between Black and white Americans over the past 20 years, new research concludes. $16 trillion that was lost in 20 years, Larry Elder and all you right-wingers who are watching this, you conservatives who are watching this. Imagine what it's been since 1865. And you're telling me this country doesn't owe us reparations? This is one of the systems that have been consistently racist against the American freedmen. Let me continue. The study released this week by Citigroup is the latest in a body of research that attempts to quantify the economic impact of systemic racism. Citigroup arrived at its $16 trillion figure after estimating that Black workers have lost $113 billion in potential wages over the past 2 decades because they couldn't get a college degree. We bring up a paper all the time here on Be the Power, diversity for diversity's sake, and it speaks about how affirmative action that was supposed to go to us, the American freedmen, well, it went to Black immigrants. The colleges, these selective institutions selected the Black immigrant over the American freedmen. And those American freedmen that did get college degrees, their wealth compared to white folks, their earnings, I should say, and wealth, I guess, didn't even compare. Wasn't even in the same ballpark. Wasn't in the same ballpark. It says the housing market lost $218 billion in sales because Black applicants couldn't get home loans. Stick a pin in that. About $13 trillion in business revenue never flowed into the economy because Black entrepreneurs couldn't access bank loans. We've shared articles on this platform from a study that was conducted that showed that even when our people have perfect credit scores, they still couldn't get the same loans that was given to white folks with just average credit scores. And y'all can look that up yourselves. So Larry Elder is a liar. And of course, I don't know if, obviously, if Charlemagne is going to watch this video and their team, but it's my hopes that they will. And not just them. This is for all of us. Because we know how to push back against those lies, because we do the scholarship over here. The scholarship is very, very important. Not only do we do good scholarship, we're great at debating. It ends with, what's more, the U.S. could have $5 trillion in gross domestic product over the next 5 years if those gaps and others were closed today, the study indicated. The only way to do that is a true remedial justice, aka reparations program, which includes direct cash payments. It's the only way to get it done. Here's another one, and then after this, I'm going to let Brother Ibrahim go in. This is from the Chicago Crusader. Now, there's many papers that I could have chosen from, but being that the freedmen were mentioned in the Chicago Crusader, shout out to my brother Marlon Watson, and one of them Chicago freedmen that I got nothing but the utmost respect for. Shout out to my bro. But the Crusader, they highlight what happened. This came out March 24, 2022. Wells Fargo rejected over half of Black applicants for refinance mortgages. Why is that? Why is that? How did that happen? I'm laughing at something in the back channel. How did that happen? How did it happen? That's racism. That's systemic racism. When you look at the applicant's race and you discard their application, that's what you call racism. That's what you call racism. Because these people were qualified. And we know, because when you look at a comparative study with other banks, JP Morgan Chase, for instance, 90% went to whites, 81% to Black. That's a great number. That's a great number. Bank of America, that's not a great number, because we know Bank of America used to be Bank of Italy. And we know how the Italians feel about us. It's just a fact. Rocket Mortgage, that's, pretty comparable, 86 to 79. Overall, 87% to 71. But look at Wells Fargo, 47%. 47%, fam. So I'm just saying, I think Ibrahim fell off. Geesh, I needed Ibrahim on it. I'm just saying, fam, like, this is so easy for us to debunk the stuff that these people are saying because they can't mess with us. There you go. Because they can't mess with us. Brother Ibrahim, take it away, bro.
From the report that you was reading, it just shows that Black men are not a part of this patriarchal system that people always want to say.
Oh man, I wish I had a
downgrade
Master Flex bomb to drop on that one. Goddamn.
That's why Black men have so much, heterosexual Black men have so much of an issue trying to get our voices heard with groups like BLM. You even see it happen now with the lady, I can't remember her name, but that Bloom is trying to sue because she did the women of color loan, right? And just used Black data, etched out Black men, and just made it for all women, right? Like we don't have no say in this patriarchal system. It's white men first and white women second, everybody else, and then us. And that's the order. That's the pecking order of America when it comes to everything, no matter if it's bank loans or what. Now to the marriage, marriages in America has been going down, right? They it just is what it is. We now live in an America where the capitalism finds it better to benefit off two households than one household. So the best way to do that is to break up the family. This doesn't just impact our community, it impacts other communities. I'm going to find this video where this guy is breaking down the data, and they're showing you, even in the video, the Breakfast Club interview, Larry Elder says it. He's like, white marriage rates are down also, right? The difference is Black marriage rates was lower than whites initially in the 60s and 70s, and they way lower now. But white marriage rates is down. They've been dropping as well. All marriage rates have been dropping in America. It just is what it is. So to sit there and act like this is an American problem, right? I mean, this is a Black American problem, or as we see it, an American freedman problem, and not an American problem, is disingenuous. Also, I wish I could find my From Here to Equality book. I know it's somewhere around here. But when you look at that book, right, if we just speaking towards wealth, it shows you how single white women have more wealth than married Black people. So this idea that American freedmen women and American freedmen men is going to get together and build up strong family, and that's going to somehow eradicate the badges and the institutions of slavery that still exist, that still oppress and pummel us and keep us down, is just not true, right? You can do everything you want to do, but individuals don't beat systems. You need a system to fight a system. And that's the problem with this whole discourse on the Breakfast Club with Larry Elder, Charlemagne, and Heslin Figueroa, is just that they weren't hitting back with like the systems. Like everybody wants to go to this rugged individualism, and what individuals can do to overcome generations of degradation. And that's not how things is done, not on a mass scale. Now, if you want to cherry pick certain people and say, well, LeBron James did it, you know, Michael Jordan did it, you know, this person did it, that person did it, right? But even when you think
Obama became the president, even though he's not a freeman, but yeah, Obama
did it, yeah, and it's like this is asinine. Another thing that really jumps out from me from this CDC study, you know, my brother Ali always talks about, you know, these badges and incidents of slavery. And this is the stuff that kind of molded us. One thing that molded American freedom culture is the fact that we have become accustomed to dealing with families that are broken up, right? That's something that starts in slavery. You might have a kid, you might have a wife, you get shipped off, you have some more kids, you have some more wives. That don't mean you don't love your wife. That don't mean you don't love your kid, and you try everything to do to get back to them people. But after a while, you understand it's not going to happen, and you resettle, and maybe it happens again and again and again. Even when you think about in the 60s, you know, like men being taken out of the home because of the welfare program that comes around in the 70s, and they just not being able to be there. You got a lot of other components that come to that. I can't think of the word, but anyway, taking the jobs out of our communities, offshoring them to other places. Just the factories that used to be there. You look at Detroit in the 60s, and then you go back and look at it in the 70s, and then by the 80s, it's just done. It's basically a ghost town, right? That breaks up a lot of families, right? We know in America, the ability to be stable financially is an indicator on if your marriage is going to survive or not. You come and you take these factories away from these people that's been working these quote unquote good jobs and pulling themselves up by their bootstraps and doing everything that they can do. And you just take this away and you don't replace it with anything productive. You replace it with heroin and then crack. And then you say, oh, look at these people. Like they can't keep their families together. Duh. Of course they can't. But I say this, like that's one of the incidents of slavery because in our community, it's not taboo in our community to get with a woman that's been divorced. It's not taboo in our community for American freedmen men to get with a woman that's been in a relationship. Maybe she was never married, right? To get with a woman that has been in a relationship, unmarried, has previous kids, and American freedman man to get with her. And he'll marry her, right? And he'll accept those kids as his kids, and they'll raise them and have a productive family. What you see in other cultures is that you get one shot. You get one shot at marriage. For women, you get one shot and you done. If that doesn't work out, you basically going to be single the rest of your life, right? And they talk about this a lot in the Islamic community. And this is another reason why people are attracted to American freedmen men from all different nationalities, because also they understand the flexibility that we have when dealing with women that their men don't have within their culture, right? So like a lot of the stuff Larry Elder was saying was just like this CDC report debunks it, right? Okay, so you have a kid and the kid is not in your family, you still involved, you more involved than somebody from a different race that lives in the household, right? This idea, like you see it a lot in the manosphere that comes up, this idea that certain things men just don't do, right? That's not our community. Even if you're together with your partner, if you are unmarried and black, you're counted as you're counted as a single mother household. Great point, Patrick Tyler. So like just this idea that black men are just these hypersexual beings that's running around impregnating women and then become a rolling stone and don't have any connection to the child is a lie. It's just a bold-faced lie, right? It's just how they are collecting the data that says what and what we are not. And if you let white people do something, they always gonna make us look like the villain. I mean, they've been doing it since we've been over here, right? We're always gonna be last. I need to find this video because the important thing is that this is an old American conversation, right? This is a conversation about how this country was built, how it was torn apart and put back together again, right? And you got a lot of new Americans, a lot of new voices, a lot of Johnny-come-latelys in this conversation, and they're convoluting it, right? They're bringing other stuff into it. And what I mean by that is that there's two ethnic groups in America that deals with high incarceration for their group, high unwedded rates, right? So you got a lot of single parents, especially single motherhood, high eviction rate, low home ownership. Like, just guess who those two ethnic groups are in America. And this is why I mean by this is an old American conversation that a lot of people need to stay out of because it don't pertain to them. Those two groups are American freedmen. We know that. And the second group is Native Americans. Right. So this is an old American conversation that we're talking about. Somehow when this conversation gets brought up, people never bring up Native Americans. Right. They just go straight to American freedom and say, look at these dysfunctional people. But when you bring up Native Americans, you'll see just why these two groups are dysfunctional. You'll see why American freedom is dysfunctional, and you'll see the bigger picture. Right. But if you hide Native Americans and just say, and then they just do flat blackness and they just say Black Americans. No, they're not talking about Black Americans. They're talking about American freedom, right? And if you coupled that with Native American, you would then say, whoa. So you telling me the two groups that come last in upward mobility is American freedmen and Native American? You'd be like, whoa, like there's another story here to tell, and that's the story we're trying to tell. A lot of people hide that data. And they don't want to deal with that. I stopped watching The Breakfast Club a long time ago because they have these interviews, especially as they get more and more into this political side. They have these interviews with politicians, and I'm like, just, one thing about journalism is never ask a question you don't understand the answer to, like you don't know the answer to. And that allows you to really be able to give a good follow-up question. And on The Breakfast Club, they just throwing things out there. It's like they got a fishing pole and they just throwing it. And I hope somebody bite. I hope we get a viral moment. You can't do that in politics. I think the right side of the aisle sees The Breakfast Club as an easy lunch. And they like, we can really get our voice out when it comes to like the Democrat Liberal Party. If we go on The Breakfast Club, we can really stump these people out because they don't know what they're talking about. And even if they do know what they're talking about, they don't know how to specify it and like really have a specific conversation with it. So we can just get up there and lie. And like, you've seen it twice now. You've seen it with Vivek, and now you've seen it with Larry Elder. We just get up there and say whatever we want to say. They don't know nothing. They can't refute our laws. They can't check us right then on the spot. There's a lot of Larry Elder couldn't do that on Roland Martin, and I'm not a fan of Roland Martin, but Larry Elder could not do what he did on The Breakfast Club on Roland Martin Live. He couldn't do that on Tim Black's show. There's a lot of shows he couldn't have went to. And that's why I think you'll see more and more and more people on the right side of the aisle go to The Breakfast Club. They feel like this is an easy win, free kill. You got two people up here that really just do hip hop news, don't know too much about politics. I was happy to see that DJ Envy pulled up a report and pushed back on some data, but then he kind of like faded off. They bring Figaro up there as the political talking head. Just my opinion of her when it comes to political correspondence. She does good when she's on Fox News or some other political network and they're asking her opinion of an event. She's horrible when it comes. Like, this is just me. She's horrible when it comes to interviewing. I first seen that when she interviewed Marianne Williamson, and she just wouldn't let the point go about having some type of political resume, having some type of experience. And Marianne Williamson is telling her, I'm like, man, if you needed political experience to be the president, we would have never had some of the presidents that we had. We damn sure would have never had Donald Trump. We would have never had Ronald Reagan and so forth and so on, right? you know, and she just wouldn't let that point go. Then it gets to Vivek, and then, you know, I hate to say it, but it's like, was this like an angry black woman moment or something? Like, what's going on here? And it gets in the way of the interview. I'm like, just ask the question, sit back, let them answer it. Follow-up question, move on to the next, right? But just to sit there and like hound and argue and I let you talk, you won't let me talk. Now it's time for you asking the question over and over and over, and then stopping them before they get to answer the question because they didn't use the language that you wanted them to use. I'm like, this is right here. So I think Republicans like, we're gonna go up there, we're gonna say whatever we want to say. One person is just wants to argue, right? You got the angry black woman syndrome. And the other two people don't know too much about politics, right? And if they have a special guest, 9 times out of 10, they special guests don't know nothing about politics anyway. So this is an easy win. We'll go up there and we'll say black women are welfare queens and they need to get off welfare. They need to work harder. We'll say black men, American freedmen men are deadbeat dads. And guess what? They won't bring up the CDC study. We'll talk about low home ownership rates. They won't bring up the Homestead Act. They won't bring up the New Deal. We'll grab some information from the FBI arrest statistics, right? Arrest statistics, not conviction statistics. And they won't bring up the fact that I believe there's like 30 categories on there, and black people lead in 3, right? Everything else is overwhelmingly white. So white people commit more rapes. White people commit more assaults. They do way more drugs. Like, and Larry Elder comes up there as somebody who's running for the president of the United States of America, somebody who's been running from blackness his whole life, doesn't even believe in repairing our community, and say, I'm not focused on white people. I'm here to talk about black people. Why are you here to talk about black people now? Why does a man that spent his whole life capitulating to whiteness want to come up there and talk about blackness? You know, and it's like that doesn't make no sense. So now you hear and you want to tell us everything that's wrong within our community, but you don't believe in systematic racism. You believe systematic racism existed at one point. And Charlemagne, to be fair, Charlemagne did ask him the question, well, when did systematic racism end? What year? Can you point to the year? And he says, well, I don't recall the year, but I just know it doesn't exist now. And he keeps alluding to, you know, we had a black president. We had a Kenyan American by way of Hawaii to be elected our first black president. So obviously somewhere around 2006, 2007, 2008, maybe, or was it before that we had to like prep America so we can get this black president in? Was it somewhere during the Bush era? Was it 9/11 when the country, quote unquote, came together and, you know, kind of like subsided they hate and disdain for American freedmen and focused their attentions more on Middle Eastern Muslim Americans? Like, when did racism in America end? Right. And like, so like, those are the questions that I thought they should have had more follow up. And you also got to have better talking points and better data to push back. I don't understand what the Breakfast Club is doing, especially with the nigga moment. For Charlemagne to be from an extremely poor district in South Carolina, Moncks Corner, South Carolina, and to live most of his life there. He's about 50, so yeah, because he didn't really get on to like late 20s, early 30s. To live most of his life there and like really like when you think about South Carolina, this ain't New York City, this ain't New Jersey. That is a freedman. Like when you see black people there, those are freedmen. Those are freedmen living in those squalid conditions, in those ghettos and trailer parks that he always talks about and things of that nature, right? So there's been a lot of times where he's like kind of centered the conversation on not just black life, but American freedman life. And I'm like, okay, that's because he's from where he's from. This conversation with Larry Elder just it just didn't connect with me at all. And I felt like, you know, I don't want to say he's disconnected, but he's having this political conversation, and he's just not a political person. That they don't have the political education, and I know that's why they got Figaro there, and I'm not, like I said, the only 3 interviews I've seen on Figaro was Marianne Williamson, Vivek, and now Elder, but I've seen the same thing over and over and over. And I'm like, if this is the person that you're going to bring in and kind of be the voice of, how Breakfast Club does politics, you might want to find a new person, right? And that's not me being harsh, but that's just being all the way real. Some people is good at certain things, and while I do like her opinions when it comes to certain key issues going on, I don't know how good of an interviewer she is, right? So you just it's just a whole mess, man. I would have pushed back on a lot of stuff that Larry Elder was saying. Like, he just got up there. He was able to go up there and just talk about whatever he wanted to talk about. Whatever he wanted to talk about, right? When he asked Charlemagne why he believed there was systemic racism, can he point to one incident of systemic racism? And Charlemagne started stuttering. I'm like, I'm thinking that's because Charlemagne was going over so many things in his head, he just didn't know which one to say. And then Larry Elder comes back and say, well, can you just, like, he kind of framed it and said, like, what's the greatest one or something to that extent. And I'm thinking, like, oh, of course, it's the badges and incidents of slavery. It's the fact that Reconstruction was overthrown. It was the fact that y'all never remedied slavery, right? So now we deal with all of these issues that stem from slavery, right? Sorry, we got nets around here. We deal with all of these issues that stem from slavery. So on one hand, and this is how we frame it. You had all these slaves, and then y'all was forced after losing the Civil War to free these slaves and make them become freemen. But then you immediately start peonage camps. You immediately started peonage camp. And then from peonage camps, you move on to I got a brain freeze. Sharecropping, right? So of course you're not gonna lock up a lot of the people if at this point in time you still able to usurp the benefits of American freedmen families and get them all out there and take the kids out to school and have them all in the crop fields harvesting your crops that you get to give them these predatory loans on everything they get to the tools to harvest the crop. Of course, you're not going to do it. But then we get away from that. You get more into an industrialized America. And now you got to have a place to put these people, right, who you can't usurp and like drain all the labor from their body. That's a badge of slavery. When you look at the fact that there's more American freedmen, men that's either incarcerated or on some type of state sanctioned supervision than there was in slavery, right? That's directly tied to slavery. When you look at the fact that, like I said previously, our broken families, that's directly tied to slavery. When you look at the fact that the wealth gap between the whites and American freedmen, that's directly tied to slavery. When you look at ownership rates, right? All of these things are directly tied to slavery, right? So that's how I would have tackled it. Now, that makes it different from somebody that's Jamaican or Caribbean or from Nigerian or something like that ends up in slavery, right? I mean that ends up in prison, right? Because theirs isn't directly tied to slavery. Theirs is tied to proximity of blackness, which is tied to American freedmen. But ours ties back to slavery, right? You always had a system where you could feed off American freedmen bodies. Even when you talk about police shootings, right? That goes back to slavery, how, yeah, that's true too. When you look at how we're not American freedmen not having control of their bodies, right? and the whites being able to basically do whatever they wanted to do with us, so much to the extent that they had to come out with laws that kind of protected us, right? But that we couldn't use to protect us, but kind of protected us, kind of. So you go from that to like slave patrols, that from to police officers, right? So you still have this system, right, where whites have authority over blacks, right? So when you see all of the things that's going down about police officers just killing American freedmen, men specifically, but women as well, you know, just us, like them always having authority over us. Like Brother Ali said, like these land thefts that came in after the Civil War, doing Reconstruction and things of that nature, right? This stuff ties back to slavery. These are badges and incidents of slavery. Even the fact that our ability to be self-determining and to self-determine ourselves, right? Y'all ever notice that? So the way slavery was done in the Caribbean was different, and people didn't live generation to generation. They worked them so hard, they died off. So the last batch of slaveries would have been directly connected to Africa, right? Now their grandchildren can call themselves Jamaican and nobody will say you African. But if we call ourselves American, even though slavery was done here, we were able to sustain generation to generation. So you are having American freemen that's 8, 9, 10, even more generations in this country. When we say we black, they say, no, you African. You can't be quote unquote black American. You can't be American freeman, and you damn sure can't say you're an American. You African, right? They don't even like you. Not nothing American. You African. You tied to some country over in Africa. You need to go find it. That ability for everybody else to be able to determine who and where and how they want to identify. But when we say it, it's like, y'all don't have that control over yourself. All these things stem back to slavery. All these things, the predatory alone, like I said, during sharecropping, right? You get a garden hole or this or that to you know help you be able to do your farm. And come to find out, man, they just put interest on top of interest on top of interest on top of interest. When you look at those who have the most student loans, that's American freemen. When you look at those who have the most predatory car loans, that's American freemen. When you look at all of these things, right, this stuff slims back to slavery. Nobody likes us saying we anything, right? And what I mean by that is everybody want to tell us what we are, right? The NOI say we the Asiatic black man. Africans say we Africa. But then when we try to pick a country, they say, no, you ain't from that country. You ain't us, but you just from Africa. That means you be holding to us. We'll tell you what you are. Everybody's going to tell you what you are. But you don't get to like self-define. And it's just nuts, man. And I like this is the information you got to have when you go in against these right-wing bigots. When you go against the Viveks and the Larry Elders, and I'm sure they'll get Burris and some more people up there, because right now the right side of the aisle is looking at the Breakfast Club as an easy win.
They're looking at them like they fool right now. But I'm gonna say this: I gotta speak in defense of my sister Tez, man. I think that Tez does a good job at pushing back in the time that she has to actually question them and push back. And I'm not just saying that because, you know, that's, you know, I rock with that sister. I'm saying that because I watch it and I see it and I know how the stuff happens behind the scenes. And just like when he said, let's go after Africa. Right? When Larry Elder, said, well, we should start with Africa. So Tez hit back with, well, if we do that, okay, but will you still, after we do that, will you still support us if we go after America? See, that's a question I would have asked. You see what I'm saying? A lot of the stuff that she pushed back against Vivek with, I thought it was good pushbacks. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes when you're working with limited time like that, it may be hard to get your thing in, and that's me looking at the situation for what it is, and just bigging up my sis. I think she does a good job at that.
So my initial critique isn't the questions that's being asked, it's the repetitiveness of it all. Like, you ask them the question, they answered it, or they didn't want to answer it, and you just got to move on. You with Vivek, she asked the same question for however long he was up there. The same question: what experience do you have in running anything that matter of fact, she was saying that benefited others and not yourself, or something like that. What experience did you have in service? I think it was phrased something like that. And she spent the whole time like asking this man the same question over and over and over. And he's telling you, man, I ain't did nothing that wasn't self-beneficial to myself. Like, whatever it was, I got something out of it, whether that was me getting into school, or it was for my business, or it was, and when it came to Larry Elder, that was a lot of arguing. Marianne Williamson, it's just combative, right? And I'm like, as an interviewer, the last thing you want to be is combative. As a debater, sometimes you got to get in that sphere, right? Sometimes you got to put your hard hat on and your boots and go in when you debating. As an interviewer, you don't want to be combative, and like, that's just what I see.
Well, let me say this, right? Because I don't want to personalize it, and I really don't. And we have our different perspectives and opinions on this, but like, even as the interviewer, when I look at like Charlemagne, you're the interviewer, but at some point you gotta grow a set of nuts like Don Lemon did, right? Like Don Lemon, you might say Tez repeated the question, but like, she's showing like, yo, I'm not going to let you sit here and disrespect my culture and disrespect my people. I'm gonna push back at this shit, right? And that's what Don Lemon did. Whatever ethnicity you is, Don Lemon shut that. To me, I thought Don Lemon shut him down. Now, I'm definitely not no fan of Don Lemon at all, but I thought he did a good job. He is trying to stay neutral, but then attacking the fact that this dude is attacking us as a people. When it came to that, then it's like, let me give an example. When Don Lemon was interviewing the royal, whatever the hell she was, reporter for the British government, and Don Lemon was speaking about slavery. This chick said a bunch of lies, man, about the Navy, the British Navy stopping the slave trade. And Don Lemon's job in that instance is not to be, in my opinion, to be combative with her about that. Number one, that's Britain's problem, right? Black Brits' problem, not ours. He was speaking to the growing sentiment that's happening over there, and she gave her answer. He didn't necessarily, in my opinion, need to provide pushback in that sense. But when it came to us, Don Lemon wasn't having that. He just wasn't having that. So for me, I like that flavor that Teslin brings to the Breakfast Club. Like, I'm not going to let y'all just disrespect my people and my culture like that.
My thing is that, yeah. I mean, definitely. I definitely agree. If somebody attacks you, you have the right to defend yourself. If somebody was to physically punch you, you got the right to block their punch. You even got the right to get offensive and punch them back. When somebody verbally attacks you and lies on your community, right, and calls your men, deadbeat dads and all that, and basically say y'all stupid and lazy, right? Because when people say, like, you need to work smarter, not harder, or things of that nature, they basically saying, man, y'all stupid and lazy. So yeah, she got the right to defend herself. She got the right to take up for her community. My thing is that it can't get to a point where it's combative, and because this is a show this is talk radio. People tuning in to listen. It can't get to a point where you arguing over the guest to get your point out there, right? And it just keeps happening over and over and over. It got to be some strategy to it. And that's my thing. Like, where's the strategy? Like, yeah. There's a way you can ask the questions and trip people up. Ask the question and then give them a good follow-up question. But to ask somebody a question, so to be honest, like, I'm like, the energy don't be right from the very beginning, right? It's like we about to argue. Like, you come home late and your girl is up and she asks you these aggressive questions. It's like, we about to argue, right? She starts off saying it nice, but you can see like the energy ain't there. Like, she looking for an argument. And that's like, so that's what I first see. Like, man, these be some aggressive questions. Loaded aggressive questions, but then on top of them, like, kind of the follow-up don't be there. And when the person tries to respond, in this interview being Larry Elder, a lot of times he was cut off, and she probably cut him off from saying something stupid, because most of the stuff he said was stupid, but you still got to let him get it out, right? Just let him fall on his face. I thought old girl from the Griot did an excellent job when she was interviewing Kamala Harris, Chameleon Harris. And she just, put it out there. They was having a good conversation, and Kamala thought she was doing the thing, right? She thought, me and Sister Girl just talking it up, and I'm talking about my Chucks and Pearls. And she asked him, hey, how would that, do you have policy for the Black community? Like, you saying Black this and you saying Black that. And, I'm not going to say I'm going to do something just for Black people. No, you got to understand what benefits all people. The trickle, like, yeah, that's how you do it. Just let them set themselves up. But to sit there as if you two are debating when they're a guest on your show, and they're there to talk about their position and why they're running for office. Another thing is that if Larry Elder needed 40,000 people to send in $1 to get on the debate stage August 23rd, I'm not bringing him on. I'm not bringing him on to after. This man is a straight coon. I'm sorry, but this man he's problematic. He's extremely problematic. I'm not.
Hold on, bro. I gotta address this. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Sister Satchel Del Reed said, in the 1990s to 2000, my cousin and husband got food stamps. Their children got Georgia State free health care. We lost our Black men in 1968 because of the Loving case. Our men left us for caring. You want to address that?
I mean, that's not that's not what the data supports at all.
That is just not true. Let's just say it. That's not true, Sister Satchel Del Reed. Some people, they use their anecdotal. They use anecdotal evidence. That's not true.
Black men have a higher marriage rate than Black women, but it's not that high, right? There's a lot of single Black men still out there. There's a lot of single Black women, as you know it. There's a lot of single American freedmen men out there. There's a lot of single American freedmen women. Black men marriage rate. I think they do it by Black men, and I want to say the marriage rate in America is about 40%, somewhere around 40%. So we're not even married at that high of a rate to say we would carry. And we know overwhelmingly those who are married, 88% are married to Black women. Right. So that's just not true. There's too many single men out there, and there's too many men married to Black women. Black men ain't went nowhere. They in the manosphere arguing about it all day. They all single. Right. That we lost it to Karen. Karen is married to Ken. That's who Karen married to. White women are married to white men, and they controlling this patriarchal ship, and they keeping their foot on our necks. Not as American freedmen man only, but as American freedmen family. So that's inaccurate. We don't even have enough marriages to make that case. If Black man was married at a rate of like 91, 92, 94%, and a significant amount a significant amount, like 25-30% was married to white women, I'd be like, yeah, there's a lot of. Now, what you will see is that black men who are in relationships with white women, whether they be married or not, those relationships are extremely visible. That's what you will see, right? They get promoted in commercials and TV shows and this and that nation. And that's just not black men married to white women. That's also vice versa when black women are in some type of relationship to white men. But that's an accusation that doesn't hold the mustard. We not chasing after Karen.
That's a fact. I don't know where you getting them stats from, sis. She said more black men married outside of the race than black women in other races. We from Missouri. We from the show me state. Please put them statistics in the inbox because I don't believe that.
Say that again.
She said, let me put it on the screen. More black men married outside of the race than black women in other races.
Than black women. Stop right there, and it's true. There's not more black men who marry outside of their race than Asians. That's not like Asians marry whites at a higher rate than black men marry white women. Like I said, the numbers is so small because we don't have a lot of marriages like that. It's just not nah. You like, man, I wish I could pull this. I don't know what, but yeah, that in a sense, like that's some of that propaganda that gets spread around, and it sounds good, right? It's something I believe Dr. Umar would say, but it's not true. It's
definitely not true. So, I mean, fam, Ibrahim, you went in too, bro. Just you was going in. I was driving. I had to go pick my son up from work, and he was going in, man, and it added a layer to the conversation outside of just showing the statistics and the data that counters Larry Elder's white talking points, because that's where he's getting this stuff from. These are white lies told by the European American in this country.
Just another thing on how the FBI debts can be construed. So when they did the war on drugs, they said black people doing drugs was a common nuisance, right? Because black people lived in these communities where they was crowded and they were housed on top of each other, right? So when black people sold drugs, because you didn't have your own space, you would have to go outside and do these things, right? And I also extrapolated from that, like there was a little respect, right? I'm not going to sell drugs in my grandmother or my mother's house. I don't even want them to know I'll sell drugs, right? Because I have respect for them. So I'll go outside of my house. I'll even go around the corner around the block somewhere else and sell drugs, right? And what the police saying is that we know white people do more drugs, right? If you read Michelle Alexander, The New Jim Crow, you understand at the height of arrest for crack cocaine, white people was going to the hospital for drug-related overdoses and injuries, I believe 10 times more than black. Something like ridiculous like that. So we know whites was doing drugs extremely more than blacks. The reason the police gave why they set up these investigations and oversee American freedmen in their community is that we did ours outside, and because whites was homeowners and they lived in these white flight communities and they had their own like spaces that they did drugs inside. So he basically saying the war on drugs wasn't about if you did or sold drugs. The war on drugs to them, and this is just the way they was able to justify over police in our communities, is that these people are outside, so it's a common nuisance. These people are inside, so it's okay, right? But when you look at the data, you will see that even though they were inside, they were still coming outside they were still coming outside to buy the drugs in our community and somehow making it safe back to their community, but that's another story. So they over policed our community. What happens, a result of that, is that you get astronomical more arrests. They're basically sitting up there just waiting on somebody to do something. We've seen what happened with stop and frisk, and you also see what happened with the crack cocaine laws, right? 100-1 crack cocaine sentencing versus cocaine sentencing, because they know cocaine, quote unquote. Well, I'm not even gonna say quote unquote. At one point in time, cocaine was a white man's high. It was a white man's drug, and it was extremely more expensive. Crack was able to be extremely cheap and affordable, you know, $2 vials, $5 vials, $10 vials, $20 rocks. So where cocaine was like $50 a hit, $100 a hit, you would have to get your sacks, whatever the situation may be. But anyway, because of that, the police justified their reasoning for setting up these investigations and over policing our community. Another thing Larry Elder brought up was that Obama rectified the crack versus cocaine law. That's not true. It went from 101 to 18-1. Now, if you in there on 101, you like, man, this is some BS. And from an outsider's opinion, that 18-1 ain't no is better than 101, but he didn't rectify anything. Rectifying it would be that it's 1-1. For people that don't understand like how this thing is done, so you have cocaine, and then crack is just cocaine mixed with baking soda, right? It's the same drug. You got cocaine, and then you got cocaine mixed with baking soda, which makes it crack, right? So during Obama's presidency, and this has started during Bush, is that these organizations have got some momentum. Russell Simmons jumped behind it, and Russell Simmons was able to like carry that up to Obama's death. And they wanted to go from 101 to 1-1, but Obama always having to capitulate to whiteness and white fragility. Obama said, look, I'll give y'all from 101 crack versus cocaine down to 18-1. And I believe it's still at 18-1. So that was another lie that Larry Elder told that they didn't check him on. But back to the FBI statistics. So you're going to get all of these drug arrests. You're going to get all of these murder arrests. You're going to get a bunch more arrests when you're policing one group, one community, and not another one. And I'll just end on this note. About a year ago, Yale put out this study where they had 4, I think they were like kindergarten age students, and they were all sitting at the desk, and they told the teacher to observe them and see which one was had behavioral issues, even though none of them had behavioral issues. And overwhelmingly, the teachers, no matter the race, was looking at the American Freedman boy. I'm going to just go ahead and say he was American Freedman, right? So even when he wasn't doing anything wrong, they was picking certain behaviors that he was doing, and they were saying like that was like disobedient behavior or whatnot. Anyway, because he was the only one that they were looking at for most of the time, he was the only one that got accused of doing things. So we got to think about that when it comes to these. Don't give me arrest statistics. Give me conviction statistics. Give me conviction, because in what they say, you are innocent to proven guilty. So why are you gonna give me in this instance right here? If you just going on arrest. We can take some of our most popular cases of people. We can say O.J. Simpson was guilty of killing Nicole Hannah-Jones. I mean, not Nicole Hannah-Jones. Y'all know the white lady name. I can't think. It's something like that. But we can say O.J. Simpson was guilty of killing her because he got arrested. You would also be able to say Trump is guilty now. Trump just posted bond, or he's going to post bond in Georgia. Trump is guilty as well because he got arrested, right? Arrest is just the initial formality that some people go through. It doesn't mean you've been convicted yet. And so when I see people throw out these stats, these FBI statistics, I'm like, yeah, okay. But we know how the American system do it. We know our communities are over policed, right? We also know that we are extremely more exonerated, especially when it comes to violent crime. I believe for murder, it's like almost 70%, like 60-something%. So that was just BS. I wish they would have pushed back on some of the laws that he was saying more specifically, and just, threw it back in his lap like hot potato and let him answer it. That's kind of how I wanted to see that, because these right wingers, man, they just getting up there saying anything, man. Vivek was the same way, man. Vivek get up there and say anything, man. They just say anything, and to them it's like, I'm quasi white. I've had success in a country that's controlled by whites. So if I can't do it, why can't these black people do it? Without any understanding of like our history and what we go through. And that's another reason they're like, man, we don't even need to know the history. We don't even need to understand any of that American freedom education. Nah, that stuff's old. It happened a long time ago. We'll just create a narrative. Ain't that what we did during slavery? Right? I'm white and I say so, and I'll just tell you who these people are and why these people are in the position.
Hey, look at what they did to George Floyd. I mean, this man was lynched in the middle of the street. The right wing turned around and made him the monster. He had drugs in his system. He was passing off a fake $20 bill. The left wing is politicizing it. They murdered this man. They murdered him. And the right wing has ran with that narrative so much so that you hear the COONs on our side of things running with it, most of whom are not American freedmen, and some who are, like Charleston White. Mm-hmm. And I've seen Minister Japp, like the Manosphere dudes who blamed George Floyd for his own death. That, to me, that's sucker shit, work avoidance and sucker shit. But it is what it is. You're gonna get that from some people. And what I find is that though there are people that become so disconnected with the actions and the behaviors of our people that they forget about white supremacy's role in why our people are the way that they are. And they just simply focus, just like white folks, they start to parrot a lot of the negative stereotypes about our people. And, like I said, you got to have somebody that's going to push back on that stuff, man.
You got to anchor them down. When you look at D.L. Hughley was a victim of this once. We had a woman who her story went national because her home got appraised because of the pictures that was in her house of her and her black family. I remember D.L. Hughley telling the story that he lost like hundreds of thousands, maybe even $1 million on one of his homes. When you look at the fact that our homes appraised less, when you look at the fact that, during 2008, people who qualify for prime loans still got subprime loans and subprime mortgages. Those things was fed to our community. People who sold them to us, mostly whites, got bailed out and still got their bonuses thanks to Obama. When you look at the fact that, people and this comes from, some of the work that some economists have been putting in. But when you look at when you control for education and control because we don't have wealth, when you control for education and income, whites still have more wealth. There's data out there that shows you, two people with comparable degrees. There was a Harvard study that said graduates, I believe it was 2010, that graduated from a business school. After graduation, whites earned $5,000 more than them. 10 years later, they earn $100,000 more than their black counterpart. It's so many things you can point to that I thought they should have really brought up to Larry Elder. And then he's coming with these stats from what are you stuck in the 90s or something? Why does all your data come from the 90s? He keeps bringing up the housing thing was Chicago 1998, and it was 189 people. We got 40 million probably 36 million American freedmen in this country, 18 million American freedmen families, and you bring up 189, a study that did 189 people who got these loans, who may or may not, because I don't believe this, man, may or may not wasn't able to sustain their house. And he didn't even say what type of loans they were. He didn't even say if they were subprime loans. He didn't even say if they ballooned up on them. And then they all lost their homes because of that. We know the work that Ta-Nehisi Coates put in, where he was showing they was doing contract deeds. He didn't get into how the loans, were they good loans? Were they bad loans? They just gave them loans because they filed a class action lawsuit that Obama was part of. We know if Obama was a part of it, then there was some capitulation to be had. Or if Obama was a part of it, then he wasn't fighting white folks like we were to fight white folks. We know if that's all I need to know that something went right. If Obama was a part of it, Obama went behind doors and pleaded to some things that them homeowners wouldn't have liked. So yeah, man, he's just 75% of black home buyers in Chicago who bought their homes through home sales contract during the era lost between $3.2 billion and $4 billion of wealth due to racist real estate policies and predatory contracts, according to the Chicago Sun.
So this is how we get Chicago, right? And this is something that Larry Elder doesn't know, but this is something that we know. And this is why we say having the scholarship is so important. We who are reparationists, the knowledge and the data that we present, it transcends the topic, because all of it is connected to the reasons why we are economically and socially and morally at the bottom in this country, period. So we know to go here. We know to go here when they start talking about the inner cities. Okay, well, y'all like to, it's like, so you're talking to Larry Elder. Well, y'all like to bring up Chicago all the time, right? Well, what do you say about, you ask him, you press him on Chicago and let him run all of his talking points, and then you bring this up. What do you say about the racist practices in Chicago, where there was $3.2 to $4 billion of black wealth lost to racist real estate policies and predatory contracts? What do you say to the blockbusting? What do you say to the what was it called? Contract. What is it called? I can't think of it right now. But what do you say to these things that that's right. That caused the decadence in the black neighborhoods of Chicago? And then you watch them try to dance around that, and then you hit them with the follow-up. But you would agree that had that wealth, $3.2 to $4 billion, stayed in that area, then we won't have the blight or the crime due to the poverty that we have now. See, these are the types of questions that trip these people up every single time. Racial housing covenants. Good looking, Ali. Now, but the one I'm thinking of is called contract leasing, I think is what it's. Mm-hmm. I think that's what it's called.
But you know what's fun? That's how it starts initially. That don't even deal with urban renewal. And them building 294, 90 and 94 through the black community, Highway 80 in Chicago, and it doesn't deal with the whites coming back to the community now for gentrification, right? So it's just and that's what I mean by the badges and incidences of slavery, right? It starts and it just goes and goes and goes and goes. The sister put in a link about the myths of black marriage, the top 4 myths about black marriage.
I was just looking at that. There's an excerpt. There's an excerpt that says this means that interracial marriage should not alone be held responsible for the singleness of black women.
It said the often cited figure of 42% of black women never marry includes all black women 18 and older. Raising this age in an analysis eliminates age groups we don't really expect to be married and gives a more accurate estimate of true marriage rate. Tolson and Marks found that 75% of black women marry before they turn age 35 after examining census data from 05 to 09. Black women, 75% of black women marry before they turn age 35. But black women in small towns have higher marriage rates than white women in urban centers. Well, you know, that's you can't really compare that. Educated black women have it harder. Getting a college degree is the worst thing a black woman can do if she wants to get married, right? Not exactly. News stories about black women often mention that more black women pursue higher education than black men by 2 to 1. Among black women, 70% of college graduates are married by 40, whereas only about 60% of 70% of graduates among black women, 70% of college graduates are. I'm gonna have to. I don't know about this, man, because all this stuff I'm reading is off from what everything else say. I'm gonna have to look at this study. Black men drop black women as soon as they reach a certain level of success, don't they? While plenty of rap stars, athletes, and musicians may choose to date or marry interracially when they achieve fame, the same is not true for the bulk of successful black men. By analyzing census data, Tolson and Marks found that 83% of black married men who earn at least $100,000 annually got hitched to a black woman. Who cares about black? See, I see what they doing here, right? This is like a percentage of a percentage. We don't care about black men who make 100,000. I believe only 6 or 7% of black men make that mark, and most of them are boomers. I would expect a boomer man who's had some financial success to be married. And I'm not saying that more men are married to white people. I'm just saying, like, why would you take a slice of such a small percentage? 83% of, they basically saying 83% of men who are in the top 7%. That doesn't tell me nothing about the American freedom, like men's marriage rates. Here's what the elites are doing. The same is the case for educated black men of all income. 85% of black male college graduates marry black women. Black men college graduates are what, about 8%? About 8% maybe? Generally, 88% of married black men, no matter their income or education, have black wives. That's what I want. Okay, that goes back to the. So why didn't they do that for black women overall? Black men don't earn as much as black women. We know black men earn the same as black women, or a little bit more until you factor in those who are working in prison. But this doesn't support what she says. You probably want to find another article.
This wasn't meant to support what she was saying. This was meant to refute what she was saying.
Okay. I was about to say that doesn't support that.
Indeed. But look, we had a great breakdown tonight, man. The analysis, as usual, was spot on. The stuff that Larry Elder said on the Breakfast Club was absolutely bogus. And, we were able to show that. We were able to show that today, as we're always able to do. Show and prove that the stuff that is coming out these people's mouths, whether they be Republicans, whether they be Democrats, the target is always the American freedman man, aka the black man. Always the target. Always. And we have been able to deconstruct their BS talking points. So, I'm about to close this thing out. Brother Ibrahim, if you have anything else you want to share before we get up off of here.
No, I would just like to tell everybody thanks for listening. Mondays is always a little bit busy for me. We had a police action shooting, so we've been going to those meetings, and like my head just been just in a different place. We did prep this one, but then like I should have went back over the interview to get more specific. But we had got some information in the meeting, man, and I'll kind of let y'all know how that unfolds in days to come. That like kind of just had my like mind just, you know, when your mind be outside your head, man, just some of the sometimes our people surprise us. I'll say that, not in a good way, right? And so, you know, these things be like real emotional when you are involved in any of this stuff, but you got to take emotions out of it and like really go in with everything attached. But yeah, thanks for listening, everybody. I thought that Larry Elder video was some BS. I think Breakfast Club gonna have to tighten up. When it comes to their political. Listen, they not gonna get Kamala Harris up there talking about she smoked weed listening to Tupac in the 80s or before he even dropped him in. Y'all gonna have to do harder, man. I mean, y'all had Hillary up there talking about I got hot sauce in my bag. I'm glad Larry Elder checked him on that. You ain't black if you don't vote for me and you ain't say nothing.
Yeah, he got him on that one.
Harder, man. They had the guy from Louisiana up there. I always forget his name, man. I like him too, man. But he got up there and
Gary Chambers,
man. He did a great interview until he talked about how immigration benefits us in the black community, and they do things that I'm like, come on, man. What do we got to do? We got to bring back Don Lemonade to get some pushback.
No doubt, man. No doubt.
Oh, man. We got to bring back Don Lemonade. That's the person we got to bring back if we want people to push back a little bit. We need another Don Lemonade versus April Ryan's moment versus Vivek. You know, so yeah, man, I appreciate everybody tuning in and listening. We got to do this more often, man, and you know, kind of get back to doing what we do. Because there's a lot we really need to speak on this loan. We really need to speak on this loan from the sister being sued by Bloom, because I think that's real important, right? And
let's make that the next live stream. Because we haven't had a chance to dissect that stuff. You know, I've been moving around, so obviously that kind of throws the stream off. You know, but that's gonna definitely be our next live stream, unless, you know, something important comes up that we just have to tackle. But that venture capital fund, right? And I have it pulled up because I go through it every so often. But one of the things, let me show the people what we're talking about.
And just like Ali said, he says, yeah, I agree. I see the majority of black men with white women and others are foreign blacks. Blackness needs to be disaggregated. And that's one thing, you know, we've been in this country with access to white people, white women as well, right? So that's not nothing new to us. I was on a panel discussion and I had there was an African immigrant black, and he was basically saying racism was dead because he got a white woman that's not only white, but like pale snow white. So like whiteness is a thing. If y'all remember that DJ Academics and Tariq Nasheed interview before it got taken down, one thing DJ Academic said is like when they seen a white guy, man, he was like Jesus to them. He was basically Santa Claus, and they used to run to him. So, you know, people not just coming over here because they want to come and get ingratiated into America. They want to be white, and they want all the benefits that whiteness bring to them. So, yeah, that's something else. We don't disaggregate this stuff. We got to start disaggregating this stuff. Maybe that 12% ain't 12% when it comes to freedmen, man. Maybe it's more like 3%. So, yeah.
Indeed. Yep. It's something we got to look at. And this is why disaggregation of blackness has to be a thing. And it's going to be. I believe that our push at the Office of Management and Budget for disaggregation of data under the proposed ethnic designation American freedmen is going to be a reality. The Supreme Court ruling of the concurring opinion by Clarence Thomas and Neil Gorsuch, in my opinion, sealed that case. I mean, there's nobody else that could make a stronger case for what we presented at the OMB, because I mean, it's in line with what they said in their opinion. So family, we're gonna end this thing, man. Look, you already know the motto of the platform. Don't just fight the power, become the power. And then and only then will you have the power to make a change. And with that, I say peace.